Hi, welcome to show number 2 of the Fiat Ministry podcast with special guest Hannah DeLaat, recorded December 2nd, 2012. Enjoy. Welcome to podcast number 2 for the Fiat Ministry podcast. My name is Ken Kohalski and I am your host. And I'm glad to have everyone showing up. We're hopefully going to have this also aired on 91.7 Lamb of God Radio, and that's 91.7 FM. And we have a great guest tonight. But I just want to let everybody know what we're doing. We're just kind of, this is our way of starting a introduction to everybody's Fiat moment, or why you said yes to Christ, or why do you continue to say yes to Christ? What's your influences, your ways of just keep digging into your faith? And we like to express with other people how they keep saying yes, or what happened in their lives, that Fiat moment, that time that said that yes to Christ, and I want to live my life for Christ. We have a great guest. Actually, she's one of my best sister-in-laws, my favorites, one of the two. They're actually twins, and her name is Hannah DeLaat. She also had her friend on, Sarah. He was on actually the first podcast, which was just an audio podcast, but hopefully she'll come back on. And I just want to say hello, Hannah, and welcome to the Fiat podcast. And how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really good, really good. Thanks for asking.
So, first off, yes, you are married to my wife, or yeah, married. You are my sister, my wife's sister. Wow, that was bad. We'll do something different for that. But anyways, we're trying to get this up and going. So, uh, but you are um, my wife's sister, right? That's better
Mhm.
off. Okay, and we hopefully have a I have a lot of respect, and I'm just wanted to have you on, and I know you have a lot to share. And first off, like we're gonna try to do for each of these podcasts, what was your Fiat moment? What you know gave you that urge to say yes and to keep saying yes? And what just a little bit about yourself, and just yeah, just what's your Fiat moment?
Well, I'm 18 years old and graduated high school recently. But even though I've been in a Catholic family and I've grown up in a really good, devout Catholic family my entire life, it wasn't until I was 14 years old that my faith really began to grow and my love for God really began to grow. And my faith became real to me. Because, first of all, when I was 14, I was struggling with a lot of self worth and depression, mainly because I saw myself different than others and I didn't think of myself as special. And so I thought of myself as nobody. It was by the divine grace of God and for the intercession of my guardian angel that that I really began to know God more and that I was able to surrender everything to God. And and this started when I went on a trip with my youth group, and it was a retreat. And I remember on this retreat, we were talking about how God had been effective in our lives and how He had been a part of our lives. And during that talk, I received so much grace to just surrender everything to God and to give myself to Him completely and totally. Although it was really difficult for me to do because I was going through depression at that time. But my depression lasted for some weeks later. But ever since that day of just giving myself to God, prayer and my faith have become a great part of my life. My strong relationship with God, though, didn't just happen overnight. It has taken me 4 years to get
Mhm.
where I am in my relationship with Jesus and Mary, and I'm still learning. It really was a battle of the will for me. God brought me to Him in steps. The first step He gave me was to constantly and sometimes randomly put in me a great love for God. And this love for God came and went, and I would get really upset when it went away because I didn't know how to keep it. So I remember going, but the second step that He taught me was that love isn't a feeling, but love is an action. And He taught me this by giving me a great desire to pray. And that also came randomly and constantly. And I remember I was in Giant Eagle this one time, and suddenly I just had a great desire to pray. So I was seriously about to go down on my knees in front of everybody in the store and just start praying. But I didn't do that because I didn't want to embarrass my mom, and I was embarrassed myself. So God was telling me that I didn't need to be afraid to let people see my love for God and who I am. But even so, I still, right when I came home from Giant Eagle, I just ran up into my room and just started praying. And that's when I decided I had a great desire to start to pray more. And the more I prayed, the more my love for God grew and the more my love for others grew. And the more I desired to pray. And so the third step that God gave me to bring my heart and soul closer to Him and to make my faith life grow more is by giving me a great love and a deeper love and devotion to the Mass, as well as to and for Mary, the saints, and the angels, and my own angel. They did this by giving me a great love for reading for saints books, and I have learned so much from saints books. I have learned uh, how to make my whole life a prayer. But my Fiat moment was really when I was 15, because that's when I was being called to the religious life. And the first time I had that calling was I was watching a movie, and it was, I forget what movie it was, but it was about a nun. And as I was watching that movie, I suddenly had a little desire to become a religious sister,
Hmm.
but I didn't want to listen to this desire, so I just ignored it, and it just kept coming back to me and back to me. And I was scared because even though I knew that I might have a vocation, I was afraid of it because I didn't know what it meant to be a nun. I didn't know what it would take for me to be a nun. I didn't know if I had the strength and the courage it would take to become a nun. So I decided to pray about it. And the more I prayed about it, the more I received the grace and the understanding to know what God was truly asking of me, which was to give myself whole and entire to Him through the calling to the religious life. And the more I understood what He was calling me to do, the more I had the strength and the selflessness and the love to say yes to God, to that religious calling to the religious life. And so I remember I wanted to be, I decided that I wanted to be a missionary sister. So what I did was I started to look up different orders that were missionary, and I finally found one that I really, really liked, and I thought that I was going to enter that order. So I'm just like, okay, I don't want to enter any order but this one. I'm not going to look into any more orders but this one. And so I just thought it was God's will for me to enter this order of missionary sisters. And then I was watching the show on WTN called Truth in the Heart. it's a show for children, and sisters teach it. And it turns out that that one day my aunt was watching Oprah, and she just called me up and said, "Hannah, turn on Oprah. There's sisters on Oprah." And I'm just like, "Okay, why are there sisters on Oprah?" So I turned on the TV, and I just see about five sisters just talking to Oprah, and they were called Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, the Dominican sisters in Ann Arbor. And I decided to watch it for a little while, and I'm like, okay, they're pretty cool, but I don't think they're for me.
Well,
And
you don't, with Oprah, you don't know what to expect sometimes,
right,
but it's got to be pretty overwhelming to see, sisters on Oprah at the point of, uh, what she represents, but that's got to be one of the, if she has, enough, time to give them some time, it must be pretty, it must be pretty important, or gives,
right.
some kind of faith drive. But go ahead, continue.
And I decided to look more into their order because my mom was suggesting it to me. And so we decided to go on their website. And and as I started to read about them more, I they were really awesome, I and they were a teaching order. I didn't want to become a teacher at all at that point, so just didn't want to. Uh, I didn't want to try to find out more about them because I didn't want to become a teacher, so I wouldn't want to enter the order anyway. So, but it turns out that the sisters who were on the show Truth in the Heart are the same sisters that were on Oprah, and I had no idea that they were the sisters. And so I decided to just look them up again since I had saw them on EWTN. So I looked them up, and we found out that there was a retreat going on that was going to come up in November. So my parents suggested that I go on that, instead of just deciding on the missionary order, because maybe that might have not been God's will for me to enter that order. So I I was kind of having a battle of the will of whether or not I should go on this Dominican retreat with the Dominican sisters. But the more I prayed about it, the more I understood that it was truly God's will for me to go on this retreat. So I went on the November retreat in 2010, and I was 15, and I wasn't expecting anything, and I was really scared and nervous, and thinking that there weren't going to be that many people on the retreat. But as soon as I walked through the door of the retreat that was in Michigan, I just suddenly see all of these sisters walking around in their habits, and then I see all these other retreatants on there, young women retreatants on there, and I'm like, whoa, what is going on here?
You didn't expect
And
so many people kind of like the same, stuff that you did, huh? It's kind of
yeah,
overwhelming.
and they were really young sisters, and I knew that they were young sisters, but I didn't know how young. And it turned out that the youngest one there was 16, which amazed me
Yeah,
because I
that's
didn't think anybody who was that age.
discerning at that age.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, amazing.
hmm And so I wasn't expecting anything, but throughout the whole entire retreat, about about 6 hours into the retreat, I started to feel like I was home there, and it was an overwhelming feeling of home that I was where I was supposed to be, and it's just getting better and better and better. And it also, before I went on the retreat, I had prayed that, okay, God, if it was your will for me to become a sister someday, then please let me find an order that had young sisters, that had a great devotion to the Eucharist, that had a great devotion to Mary, and that teaches kids. And all of my prayers that I had prayed, if it was God's will for me to become a sister someday, all of those prayers that I had prayed were answered in that retreat, that particular order. Every single every single prayer I prayed was like boom, 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 boom. One after the other was answered. And I was just so amazed, like, wow, this is crazy. And I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah.
And so I decided during the retreat, we had to go into different classrooms because that's where we slept. And each classroom had a time that they would get up and go to adoration. They had adoration all night long. So it was our turn to get up and go pray. And they told us that we could spend about like an hour or two, or just as long as we wanted to, in the chapel praying. We could spend all night if we had to. And I was thinking I was going to spend about an hour. And it turned out I spent 7 whole hours without sleeping in the chapel just praying. And it was basically an all-nighter with Jesus in the chapel, which I never did before. So I was really happy about that. But as I was praying in the chapel, I was praying to know if it was truly God's will for me to be in this order instead of the missionary order before. And the more I prayed, the more I heard the words yes. And then I heard the words contemplative missionary. And I just kept hearing those words over and over and over again. And I said, okay, God, do you want me to be a contemplative sister, which is a sister who just stays inside the convent and prays all day long, not leaving her convent at all? She has to go to the doctors or something. Or do you want, or I pray to God if you wanted me to be a missionary sister? Because I didn't know how it's possible for somebody to be both a contemplative and a missionary sister. So I prayed that, okay, if you want me to be both a contemplative and a missionary sister someday, then please let me find order next day or Sunday that was contemplative and missionary. And it was about 7 in the morning. And as I was about to go back to my room to go to bed, I just felt like something was going to happen that morning, that something awesome was going to happen. So I went back to my room and I didn't get to sleep because I guess I went to my room as soon as the bell rang for everybody to get up, and I was already up for 7 hours anyway. So I got dressed and I went back to the gym where we had been before. I'm part of that retreat, and they gave us a talk, and they were talking about their order and what it was. And as they were talking, they said it. They told us that their order was also consumptive and a missionary at the same time. And right when they said that, I knew in an instant that God had answered my prayer about me finding the next day an order that was both consumptive and missionary. And I just felt even more like that's where God was calling me to be. And I just felt so home there. I didn't want to leave. And
That
then ever since that day, ever since that retreat, I've been feeling like God was being called to that order.
that's awesome, Hannah. I know you talk about this a lot, just when we're talking, and I'm hearing things about what how exciting you are about what the future lies for you with this the convent, and what with everything that helped you out with the retreats, everything that what you were discerning throughout, since really around 14, and Giant Eagle, and going to the retreats. You just have that passion, and you're fired up about it, that you know most people, it's really cool to see that passion that you have. And talking about the Saints, I know we're looking to do some small little shows with you about different saints and talking about a little information about the saints. And um, I think it's really a nice touch to see how you had to wait, and kind
Yeah.
of like at this time, it's coming to Advent, and how we're waiting for Jesus Christ to come. And I think you're waiting the right way, and you're patient. You're not taking anything rushing, and doing anything hastily. It's very you're gonna maybe take a class or two in college, and
Mhm.
then maybe go back to the convent, whatever God tells you to do. And I think you're listening to him, and that's tough at your age. I think it's nice. On just all of that. I just want to take a short uh, moment. If anyone is on the stream right now, it won't. Anyone that's on the radio listening to this won't be able to do this, but they're welcome to do when it's live. You can, write in an email or chat room a question for Hannah tonight. I will hopefully check. We're gonna take a little break, and just I want to just introduce a radio station that's helping us, and we're kind of helping them in the sense of we're promoting them, and they're gonna maybe bring some of these shows onto their radio airwaves, which is a EWTN affiliate right now. And I'm going to bring it up. It's called Lamb of God Radio, and it's it's on the FM stations, which is really nice too. So it's a stronger feed to most radio stations. Uh, 91.7, everything you can see on the stream right now. For people that are on radio, the website is lambofgodradio.com, and the number is 1-800-917-4825. And that again is 1-800-917-4825. And if you can help them out in any way, they are affiliate, and they are a community owned radio station that what EWTN can't afford to help them out. They ask the community of the different affiliates to help out in any way. So I think it was Father Mitch Pacwa that says, keep us between your electrical bill and lighting, or one of the gas bill. I'm trying to get everything down. But if you can help them out in any way of shape or form, that would be great. And I hopefully we can have Fiat Ministry shows, the podcast, some other plans that we have on coming up. Definitely check us out at fiatministry.org. And I'll just say that I don't have anything written down. I think I have a contact. Let me see. Uh, Never mind. I will talk to you about that later on. Don't have that. But if you have any questions, fiatministry.org is the best way to get in contact with any of the uh, archived videos or audio podcasts. We are doing both video and audio podcasting on here, which is really cool. And I'm going to bring back us, and I will bring myself up because I'm talking. We're gonna. It's very exciting. I know Hannah and I and some of her friends, Sarah, and we're talking about some new shows. We're always welcoming anyone that wants to give out their Fiat moment to email us, and let us know what you want to. We're trying to do it Sunday nights at 8:30. Hopefully that will stay in some kind of format. But I think we're gonna do another question for Hannah, and I think that's kind of what we went to uh, as the parting shots. Um, I think one thing that Mary and just the, Gabriel was talking to her when she actually was invited to have Jesus as present with her. Um, a lot of kids, at our, I know how I was when I was a teenager going into college. I would be Facebooking, asking questions about, okay, how, what should I do? I'm not going to just say yes to something, but Mary did. And I know you work with a lot of kids at your parish and other
Mhm.
retreats that you might be involved with. What what is one thing that helps you with, young kids, even young adults, and how do you express why it's cool? Why is it, it should be a cool thing to love your faith in Jesus Christ.
Well, because I work with, but first of all, to me, it's easier to help little children come to the faith more than just talking to my own, like, people who are my age, because one, they're more enthusiastic and they're kids and they get really, really excited. But how I how I try to bring them to God and how to get them excited and want to learn their faith. It's just being excited myself, because I'm learning so much just by being and helping in PSR, that even though my words help them to come to know God, it's my actions too that help them come to know Jesus. Because I'd be at mass with my kids, with my PSR kids, and they would be looking at me, and if they saw me praying, then they would be praying too. Or if they saw me sit down, they'd be sitting down. Or they, it's like they turn to me for help, but they also try to see what I'm doing so that they can imitate it. So um, basically, it's just through my actions I try to bring them to God more than through my words.
Right. And that's the sometimes, I mean, I know when I was young, I mean, that was definitely difficult to really like take any kind of seriousness with our faith. But I know one thing or one person that we both, after learning about our faith and kind of said, he's the people's pope, and that's how I was looking at him. And we're talking about the blessed Pope John Paul II, or how I would say anytime I'll go with Blessed JP2 is how I would summarize him. But he is blessed, and I know you have a lot of uh, you learned a lot from him, and you take a lot of what you do through what he wrote. One thing was theology of the body, and I just want to. I know you like to talk. Want to bring him up and kind of let him. How he leads you in different ways that he you know talks to you now through words, and just the way he lived. What do you have, what do you think about, what can you say to people, even your age or younger, about the blessed JP2?
Um, well, uh, first of all, his courage and his willingness to say yes to God, despite everything that he went through, that's a real, that makes me think, because like when he was 9 years old, he lost his mother, and then when he was 12 years old, his older brother died, and when he was 21 years old, his father died. So by the age of 21, he became an orphan, and instead of turning away from God in his sufferings, he instead threw himself into the hands of God, into the hands of Mary, and he entrusted his whole self to the Blessed Mother. His his motto when he became Pope was "Todes tuas," which means entirely yours or Mary's, and just his faith in the Blessed Mother and the way that he was able to overcome his fears. And I remember hearing that or reading that once he became Pope, he didn't just say, "Oh, I'm not worthy" or "I'm not good enough," but right when he went out to that balcony, he just said, "Fear not," and he was saying not to be afraid. And I think like, how can he not be afraid when he just became Pope? And for me, I would, because of what a big job that would be. But he just gave everything to God and trusted himself to Mary. And that makes me, that helps me to say yes to God even more, especially with me being called to the religious life. And to me, just by being called to the religious life, I'm understanding that I'm not only being called to serve God in the church, but I'm being called even more to live the life of Mary and to imitate her. And through the call of the religious life, I am being called to, like Mary, to literally enter into the unknown, just like Mary did. She was at the Annunciation when Gabriel came to her and asked her to be the mother of God. She didn't know what was to happen. She didn't know that her son was to be crucified. And she just said yes to God with such great faith and love. And to me, that's what Jesus is calling me to do, to enter into the unknown, like a little child with trust and faith in God and Mary, with them leading the way. And I don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come in my way once I do enter the religious life. But to me, that's the excitement of it. And
Yeah.
that's an act of faith for me. And it'll be an adventure really, as well as a beautiful cross for me. And the more I think about me becoming a religious sister, I'm understanding that I will not be losing anything at all, even though some people think that if somebody becomes a priest, or if somebody becomes a pope, or if somebody becomes a sister, then they're losing everything. And but really, what they are doing is only gaining more, and they're gaining heaven for not only themselves but for others. And to me, that's what I'm being called to do, and the Pope John Paul helps me with that because even though he he didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know what was to be coming when she became Pope. He still had that firm faith in Jesus and Mary. And the more I think about that, the more I'm understanding that the more the more we have faith and trust in God and His strength, the more we will be able to have the courage to do His will, no matter what anybody will say or do to us. And it reminds me, what Blessed Pope John Paul said, and it reminds me of the words of Jesus, because Jesus said, "Do not fear those who can hurt the body, but rather feel him who can put both body and soul into hell." And to me, that's like the Blessed Pope John Paul, because he didn't care what people thought about it. He didn't care if people when say things. He just did what he needed to do because of because he knew it was God's will and because he loved God. And to me, it was also Mary who was helping him with that. And, and Mary could have the strength to do everything she did at such a young age, then I too have that strength. I have the faith and trust in God. So I suppose that still helps me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think coming back to be not afraid, and that's one of the things about saying yes Christ, and not, like, you don't know what's going to happen, like you're saying, like you're just going to let God lead you, and through prayer, and just the journey is kind of a venture and exciting. I think what you're going to be, going through, and having the excitement of, you don't know what's going to take, what place, places you're going to go, and people you're going to meet, and just the excitement that God will give you with this journey that you're, riding. And I think that's really cool. And I think the Blessed John Paul II gives us, a way of looking at, there's a lot of tough things that, in our lives, and we shouldn't be afraid of, what's going to happen. And, coming up in, 4 weeks, the best thing's going to happen, and you're just going to say, a child was born, and there's Jesus Christ as a baby, and every one of us was a baby at one time, and we're still on that journey to, knowing what will happen. And I think, Hannah, you just show a lot of ways that people can look at a young adult nowadays, and I think that's very cool. And I know I'm very honored to have you and Catherine as sisters-in-laws. It's not just, and I think you both come from amazing family, which, you know, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no. Um, I needed to say that. No, I'm just kidding. But I do mean that with all my heart, that you come from a very faithful, driven family that, you know, teaches you the right things to do. And I think what what another, we have a couple more minutes. Coming back to, I call it, CCD, or PSR is what you call it over in Ohio. Over in PA, where I was, from, it was CCD. And but what, with the kids that you're working with, what kind of things that influences that helps them to learn, their faith? Is it to listen? I mean, you don't want to scare them away? What are some methods that you take t for helping teach the kids? I know you taking them to mass, but what are other ways that you are actually at class helping them out?
Um, basic. Well, my classroom tends to talk a whole lot,
Good
and
luck then, huh?
it's really hard to keep them quiet. But the best way that my class is able to learn is through listening, and and to me that's the best thing that they can do in order to learn, because if you do not listen to what somebody has to say, then you're not going to be able to understand them and to know what they're talking about. But we also, if they don't understand it, then we can just say what we said over again. And yeah, basically just to listen.
Well, listen, yeah, I think that's with the what I was doing youth. Listening is a very important thing. I think a lot of people like to talk, and to listen is sometimes the hardest thing to do. Sometimes, especially for me, that's a chatterbox. But um, with going, that humility that you almost went down, you know, in different locations. I mean, I couldn't. I know when I was a kid, I didn't. I wasn't brought up into the, that, okay, we'll go to church, but I don't really feel like going. But then to show that you're almost to a point where you will, get on your knees in a public place, because sometimes it's hard to even pray in public. I know, and since, until I was around people, of, that godly faith that will pray in, public areas, it was weird at the beginning. But I mean, is it something that you notice with people that, some friends that are not up to, not saying and everybody's in their own journey, but that might not be in that way of thinking, like maybe that you would, or some other friends that that would like to pray or feel comfortable praying in public? Is it something that you think about, or is it something that you just take it so it's normal? And even with the youth, do you have a lot of kids that are comfortable praying
Um,
in class?
yeah, we do. Like sometimes they can complain and say, "No, I don't want to do that," and they just want to do something else in the classroom. But if we explain to them what prayer is, and when we explain to them what happens in prayer and how Jesus can speak to us in prayer and the good things that come to us through prayer, you can just see them in an instant just want to pray again and just get excited about prayer.
Yeah.
But I still see it, and even in my own friends, I see it, and it saddens me that so many people uh, don't take the time to pray.
Yeah.
Like, one, because they just don't think prayer is a good thing and it won't do anything,
Right.
but just because they don't have the will to pray and their ignorance of prayer. So uh, I'm really happy that I'm doing PSR because uh, I get to help them know how to pray. And if I have somebody who doesn't know about the faith, or who doesn't want to know about the faith, or who doesn't care about God as much, then I try to tell them uh, to try to pray and to listen to what
Yeah.
Jesus is telling them, because what Jesus has to say to us is always good, especially what he tells us in prayer. And we're missing out on so many things just by not listening to his voice within our hearts when we pray.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I also tell them things about the saints, because the saints were just like you and me, and they had that same problem of not wanting to pray, having or not having the will to pray, but they still did it anyway. And I try to help them understand that even though you might not have the will to pray and you don't want to pray, then you should still do it, because you're actually gaining virtue, and you're gaining virtue of faith and virtue of love, and you're showing Jesus that you love him when you pray, even when you do not want to pray. And another thing I tell them is, I just tell them about my own faith walk and how hard it was for me to get to the level of being able to pray. But what really started me praying more also is going on a retreat called Pour, and my brothers have been on it, and Sarah has been on it, my sister. And it's once I went on that retreat, I just wanted to pray even more, because there were so many people on the retreat who were like me and who wanted to pray more and who had the same love for God as I did and more. And it's through that I was able to pray more, and I wasn't shy to pray too, because I had actually found people who were like me and who weren't afraid to speak their faith and weren't afraid to let people know that they love God. And it's also through that core retreat that I got to meet so many friends and lifelong friends, and that's where I met Sarah McGurvey. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
just helping them know about prayer.
No, that's awesome. I didn't mean to do that, but no, I think like you're saying with prayer and just with discerning what you wanted to do, and hours on the retreats that you were at the convent, and praying and like something sorrowful coming to you, and then finally finding out that everything that you kind of asked for through prayer, it didn't come like a snap. It took your journey, and now
Right.
you're learning that, okay, I'm going to take, a little bit of college, courses, and but I can
Mhm.
still, get, into the convent of what you wanted. I think, in the sense, after hearing you first couple of times talk about when going on the retreat at the convent, you were so excited, and I think it was just a matter of when God, wanted you to say, okay, we'll take this journey together, and
Mhm.
I won't let you astray, and don't be afraid, and you're doing that, and I think what you're doing with your parish, PSR, and just helping the kid, they need that age group that, they're just, they sometimes might feel a bit more scared with an adult compared to a young, adult, talking to them kind of down to their level a little bit more, in the sense of, you weren't, a couple of years ago, you were, in the sense, in that same level of thinking, and just being those kind of kids. So I think, yeah, and you're on the right track. I don't know. I appreciate. We're gonna cut it right around. We got a couple more minutes. We can cut it early. But I appreciate what, you know what for coming on first, what you are, and as a person, and um how you uh, act around people, and you're very humble, and it shows, as a brother-in-law, thinking that, it's just very nice to see. Like, I'm not saying everybody's, in my eyes, the same, in the sense of, love and respect, but I know, for a person that uh, gives a lot to their faith, it shows through you, and I know that, and I know your parents are proud, and I know Sarah's proud, and all your brothers and sisters are proud, and friends. I think, hopefully, people that are listening can take a little bit of what you're saying, and take it with them, on their faith walk, and and hopefully find, their Fiat moment, or continue to stay on that Fiat moment of being saying yes to Christ, and don't like look back or ask questions. Just go with what that walk of faith. And I again, thank you, uh, for coming on, Fiat Ministry podcast. I will definitely want to let everybody know we will be doing a 4 minute, maybe 5 minute, little segments on saints, and hopefully maybe putting them up together. But right now, Hannah and I are starting, also, a little saint project. She loves the saints, and I think anything that we can express, people like you and me, like how you said, Hannah, like people that, were just like us. They were on this earth. They just like Jesus was too, but they were, and a lot. Some of them were, a couple, 100 years, maybe thousand, but they were here, um, at some point in, uh, the earth. And so, um, we want to express, some knowledge about them, and hopefully give you a little bit different insight on the saints that you might not know much about, or a lot about, but might have something new to entice your urge to read more about the saint. And we'll let people know when that starts up. But I will thank you again, Hannah.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I appreciate you. And I think we're going to try to do, we have a couple more questions, and I want to hopefully bring you back on, to continue our conversation. If you're willing to come back on, would that be Yes.
Yes.
That would be awesome. Thank you. And we will continue this conversation and kind of help the youth and the young adults to maybe ask their questions, and you can always email us at we'll bring it up right now. There, contact at fiatministry.org, and we'll get back to you. And I will have hopefully a Hannah will eventually have an email address for from fiatministry.org, so we will put that up the next time she is on. So that's exciting, and I am going to transfer over to the last thing, Hannah, and we're going to just again ask everybody if anyone is interested in donating to a great EWTN affiliate, lambofgodradio.com, and that's 91.7 FM, and the phone number is 1-800-917-4825. That's 1-800-917-4825. And the people on the stream will see it. People on the radio, come on board. We'll be on Sunday nights, 8:30. Fiat. Um, if you go to fiatministry.org, you can find the watch live, and we will be on and at 8:30 every Sunday night. If things change, we will let you know. Come to the Facebook. We just started a Facebook page, and I just invite everybody to come board, and uh, it's a great opportunity to learn a little bit about other people and their face. And thank you again, Hannah, and I will let everybody have a good night, and I will especially say good night, Hannah, and have a great evening.
Good night. Thank you.
All right, thanks.